Hello, everyone, and welcome to Boyebi. Good evening, and welcome to Benix TV and the Boyebi channel. Tonight, we're doing the youth conference, and we're going to talk about finance as well. We will touch base very, very quickly on mental health and how COVID-19 and financial situation has affected our mental health today. But we'll talk in general about finance and the youth in our community. I've got um, four guests today. Unfortunately, there was supposed to be six, but unfortunately, some of our guests couldn't make it. And my co-presenter as well, Sister Benita, she couldn't make it tonight, unfortunately. So I'll send my apologies to everyone. And we will get started. We've already spent quite a lot of time, so apologies for the delay, the lateness. We'll get started with Jessica Mambika, who's going to talk. She's going to talk generally about finance. So, Jessica, would you like to introduce yourself and then you can talk about the topic?
Yeah, so I'm Jessica. So we're just going to be talking about finances in general. So we can touch upon obviously the youth itself, but some tips and
Yeah.
information that we're going to use today. Also, adults obviously can use that information as well. So it was
Mm-hmm.
just, I think from the title, it was things that we as youth or young people, or just in general adults, wish that we knew, or that we can use in
Yeah.
moving forward with our finances.
Mm-hmm. So, Jessica, to start with, can you tell us what you do?
Okay, so I work in a law firm. I'm a senior caseworker. I deal with immigration matters. um
All right. Okay.
I specialize more in asylum work. Yeah.
Okay, so you're gonna kickstart this conversation. It's more of a conversation just to let you guys know. None of us, I don't think there's anyone in the group who's a financial specialist here, but we're going to
No.
debate our experiences and the things, like Jessica said, the things we wish we have known, or what we've learned so far, and so on, so on. Okay, so Jessica, would you like to start? Yeah.
Yeah, so one aspect that I thought that was quite important that I wish I did know when I was a lot younger was in regards to scoring. So at a younger age, we don't know how much of an impact our credit is the older that we get, and when we actually start potentially buying properties, or making certain purchases, our credit actually does matter. So small things like getting a phone on a contract, or getting a car. Obviously, as you get older, obviously you start doing things like car and mortgages and so on. So what the credit scoring system does, it looks at what the actual system in place is for. It looks at how what type of risk you would be if obviously they were to give you a certain amount or so on, and your history in regards to paying back. Are you a good person that can pay back? So just
Mhm.
things like that, bear with me. So things that the credit report sites, there's a lot of websites that you can have a look at. So there's Expedia, that they obviously you can go and check your credit score in there. There's Clear Score, there's Credit Karma, and what you do with there, you put your details down. So they just ask you basic information, who do you bank with, your personal details, and then they kind of give you a general scoring in regards to your area, and your personal scoring in regards to your history. So and the type of things they look at is your payment history, which makes up 35%. Or they can look at the length of time that you've been obviously lending, and they can look at the new credit that you're potentially wanting to get. So it's kind of ranked up in, if you have an excellent credit scoring, so you're more favorable to lenders, so they're more likely to give you give you purchases. So obviously, if you're looking to get a car, you'll get a higher amount next, as opposed to somebody that's got a poor credit scoring. So there's excellent, there's good, there's fair, and there's poor. So obviously, you can always build that up. So there's nothing to worry about. So if you find yourself like applying for these apps, and then you go on it, and then you see that your credit is actually poor. There are actually tips, of things to do that can obviously help you to build that up.
Okay. Yeah.
So in regards to, so we'll talk about the bad things first that obviously can give you a bad bad rating. So it would be like, for example, missing payments. Obviously sometimes we don't realize how important these when we make potentially getting a contract, for example a phone contract, if they tell us it's the first of each month, we need to make sure that it's works along our finances, because that date, you have to make sure that you comply with that date, because again, later on down the line, it does affect your credit scoring and your credit history.
Mhm.
So, and making sure that you're not applying for a lot of credit at the time. So if, for example, in a short space of time, potentially in a month, you're potentially trying to get, different credit cards or things like that, because, they can see that in the system that you're applying for, different loans and credits and so on, that can potentially give you a bad credit history, which obviously can obviously give you a poor credit scoring. So obviously, the good side of that, to improve that, so you can make sure you check, you're making payments on time. What's important as well, when you get these credit apps, it shows you in regards to your information. So the first thing I would advise everyone to do is make sure that the information that they hold for you on their systems is correct, because and you can actually dispute these information. So if you see that something's incorrect, it's not something that has to remain on the system. If you can dispute it, and obviously you can evidence it as well, so you can obviously put and that can be amended again, which could be beneficial to your credit scoring, so that will help. The reason why I'm talking a lot about credit scoring is because, like I said, it is very important, especially if in the future we are wanting to make certain purchases at different ages. Obviously we're wanting different things. There might be somebody that's 18, 19, they're only thinking about getting a phone out, as opposed to somebody else that's in their 20s or 30s that's trying to get a car out or a mortgage. All of those things, they all come down to the same bracket of, and it's all looked at by the same area in regards to your credit. I've got some additional tips in regards to just general financing.
Okay.
Um,
Before
yeah,
we
so
move on to that, I just want to quickly
yeah,
ask you, how did you know about this information? How long did it take you to kind of realize how much like how much not paying your bills maybe, or
yeah.
paying back your loans could affect your credit?
I think definitely. I would like to say I wish I would have learned about it. Maybe not high school because you're a bit young. It would
Yeah.
be good, obviously, as in regards to the extra, curricular activities that you are taught. But I think it would be important in regards to possibly from college, because I think that's when you start working. Obviously you start getting
Yeah.
your own money, so you start purchasing a lot more things, and there's more things that attract you a lot more. So I would say from college, I wish I would have known a lot more, because I was more able to work at that stage. And so it's more when you're at a stage where you can actually start making purchases. That's when obviously it starts to matter. So I would say from college onwards, it is very important.
Okay. Yeah, that's true, because I think a lot of us, we don't really realize about these things until it's maybe slightly too late. Maybe, I guess it's never
Yeah,
too late, but you're
yeah,
much, much older
but
and
yeah,
you
it
should
does
have
make
already known
yeah, it
about
does.
certain things. So it makes a
Yeah.
difference. Okay, do you want to go ahead and give us your tips?
Yeah, so there's the most important tip I would say, no matter, like, even if it's not just in your 20s, these can even go on to our adults. If we're trying to just do a general savings, I would say we have to make a realistic financial budget. So um and something that you can use is Monzo. So in regards to Monzo, I would suggest Monzo, just because that's also another app as well that you can use. You can apply for that. It comes with a card. You can see your incomings and outgoings, so that can kind of help you obviously see where your money is going. So then it can help you see it, where you can obviously cancel a few direct debits, because there are some things that we pay for that are actually, I would say, unnecessary, that we don't actually
Necessary.
need.
Yeah.
So that would help. So if you make a realistic plan, a realistic budget based on your actual lifestyle, and I would advise that everybody has their own individual budgets that's realistic to them. So obviously, I'm next to Benedict right now. Her budget to my budget would be completely different, because we have different lives, different lifestyles, so on. So make sure that you're not
But
doing it based on everybody else's
mm,
individual.
but that, I think that's the problem, especially when you're young. We have this
Mm-hmm.
attitude of trying to keep up with the Joneses, you see. And for
Yeah.
young people, it's really, really hard to realize that you can't live on someone else's or an imaginary budget, not even someone else's,
Yeah.
but one that you would
Yeah,
like to
because
have,
that's where you can
like this
yeah, that's where you can
fantasy
get problems
world with
then.
all the luxuries and stuff. But,
Yeah.
when you're young, you have little money and you
Mm-hmm.
just want to spend it on all the nice things. So
Yeah. Yeah.
how do we do to kind of educate young people from quite early on, like early adulthood, before they say late teenage?
I think just in conversations like these conversations, like I said, it would be
Hmm.
good if it was talked about more in schools in regards to this, or colleges, so on. But obviously, just in your
Mm.
own, little circles, it'll be something that's important. I think also, like, just within friends as well, because we can share tips. I think another thing that I was going to say, that's another
Well,
money saving app that Benedict's actually taught me, was there's an
mm.
app called Plum. So with Plum, it
Okay.
literally takes out um just, I will say, loose change that's in your account that you don't even notice. And that's kind of a money
Hmm.
building thing there. So it just takes out maybe I think it's a weekly or monthly, I'm not quite sure, but it takes out as little as £1 or 50p here and there, but gradually it does help build, and you don't even notice it, and then you've got money saved as well. So just speaking to
Okay.
people around you, and you can get different tips. So I think sometimes people see finance as something that's not really spoken about. People don't really talk about how much they earn, or any financial problems. So I guess we're kind of trying to take
Hmm.
that stigma away, to be like, it's okay, because we can kind of help each other.
Yeah. Mm.
Yeah.
I know.
um
But yeah.
yeah, sorry, what was you
Go
going to say?
ahead. Yeah. No, I said I know
um
that there's a lot of that in our community. We don't really discuss much, personal finance or even with your parents or stuff. So
yeah, which
it's
which
quite
will be
hard.
good. Like, one thing I do think, the older generation, they do have, I think they do Likalimba, that they call it. That also, I would say, that is a good saving. That is a good way to save in, especially if you've got like
Hmm.
short term things that you want to do. Because if you feel like you can't keep that money to yourself, you've come into
Hmm.
this group where you're obviously putting money in each month, and at the end of it, you see the results back, and then you get your money. Obviously, it doesn't appeal to everyone, but it has been
No.
working for our parents for a long time as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes, I know. I remember. I had to encourage my mom to leave it after a bit, but I think she was still getting to one or two groups, because for me it was like, instead of giving that money away, why don't you just put it in your account? And she was like,
Yeah, but
no,
some
because when the
people,
money's in my account, I spend it. So I
yeah,
suppose it does
yeah,
work
that
for some
happens. Yeah.
people. And
Yeah, so that's what, so
yeah,
that would be, like I said, that's another, for other people, they would give it to other people to hold, as opposed to having it themselves.
mm,
Because I think the most important thing you need to know about finance is that you know yourself. If you know that you've got this amount of money
mm,
in your account, and you know that you will dip into it, it might be better if you do something like Killenbo, or you have like a certain savings where you can't, you have to go in branch, to collect the money, or there's an actual process, or kind of deters you away from going to get that. So that could be a
yeah,
thing as well.
mm, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay. Have you got any more tips?
One
Talking
last
about
thing I would
Monzo,
say.
Plum. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it would be, when I'm talking about, making your budgets and so on, I would say have different types of savings. So like, you have your general savings, like, so like your general budget for like your monthly budget out. So you have your monthly budget, like
Mm-hmm.
we said, realistically monthly budget. Obviously you have your spending. So if you're someone possibly like me, that I like to do. I like to shop, so on. So it would be good to have some money aside, possibly in the month that you'd like to do some shopping. I would say just have just a normal general savings, possibly like if you're gonna get a car or a mortgage out or something like that, and you have also like an emergency fund just in case. So those two different types. I think sometimes having just a saving for one can kind of make you lose money in a way. But if you have
Yeah.
it separately, an emergency fund and a savings, and then
Yeah.
obviously different budgets for a monthly budget, and then you break it down, I do think that helps.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
facts.
Yes,
Fantastic.
that was
Yeah.
all my tips given now.
That's
Brilliant.
thank
And
you
thank
very
you
much.
so much for the information that you've given.
No problem.
Does anyone want to add into what Jessica has spoken about? No?
Yes, we can.
Yeah.
Go on. Yeah, no, I think the tip she's given was good as far as saving and creating money pots, for specific things such as savings account or saving up for a car, saving for a house. I think these are important things to remember.
Mhm.
I think when I was younger, the first time I got introduced to actual things about credit, I didn't realize how much it affected me was when I first went to university when I was 20. So I think I remember getting a contract with four other people, and one of the guys that was supposed to pay the contract, he didn't pay. So when it came to the end of the term, we still owed the landlord, I think it was something like £3,000, but because we had paid, we thought, oh, this is not going to affect us. We just left the house, no problem. And then that was the first time I got a CCJ on my account. And this was something that a lot of people aren't aware of, but if when you don't pay,
What is
if you
CCJ, Davis? Just before we move on, just in case people don't know, can you
so
tell us what a CCJ is and how you get it into your account?
so a CCJ is anytime you've put your name down on a contract to say you're going to pay a certain amount, and then you don't pay. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
the person may go to court, and then that's when you get given a CCJ. So until you pay those CCJs back, your credit score is actually penalized maybe by 50, which is quite a lot because it could take up to a year to even go up to 50. So
Sorry.
that was the first time for me personally. That was the first time when I thought, I need to actually learn a bit more about finance and how to
Mm,
like what people actually looking at when it comes to if it actually allows you to do what it allows you or what you could be missing out on as well. For
mm,
me as well, I think one of the things I didn't realize when I was younger was I always thought of money as there's only one way of getting money, which was just to work for it. The hours in equals the hours out. But then when you start looking at things like interest rates and putting your money in the right places actually makes it grow. To me now, I see every pound as a seed. So
yes.
had I known that from had I known that from a long time ago, I would have realized every time I do spend £1, it's not
Mm,
really I'm spending £1. I'm actually spending £4 potentially in the future if you put it in the right place. Every time you spend, you could be spending £20 a month on how much is it for the iPhone now? The iPhone 12 per month now.
oh dear.
Something ridiculous. Something ridiculous. I
Yeah.
think that if you get the new iPhone, you pay contract, you're paying £50 a month. But at the same time,
Mm,
if you're in a position to pay £50 a month for contracts where you pay money, you can also pay £50 a month towards investments from the age of 16. So these are things I didn't know about from a very it was only within let's say the past 3-4 years when I've been learning about this kind of stuff that's made a massive difference to earning
mm,
potential. Anything to
okay.
I'd like to add as well, from my personal experience, as far as when I've been working or when I've been studying, me personally, the information that's been shared, especially by Jessica, I think she's called, before, I think personally that's something I need to hear anyway, because my weaknesses is when I do work. My problem when I was working actually for hospitality agency for the last 3 years, well, I'd be getting a certain amount of money, probably say like 400 or 300, and I'll spend it careless. Well, not carelessly, but I'll have that I'll have that complacency, thinking, you know what, I know I'm gonna get paid next week. Whatever I'm spending now, I'll probably get the same amount. So, like Davis was saying before, like it's important to think, if I spend this amount of money now, suppose I have a holiday, or suppose there's something I want to get involved with that would require a lot of funds. That money that I'm spending on instant gratification, that money could be better used for something more financial, something more beneficial, something that will help you as
Mm.
far as, like they were saying, as far as buying property, as far as going on holiday or special events.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I think what everyone's been saying without saying it really, like it's also about self discipline as well, especially because when you're dealing with credit, when you're dealing with these things like what you mentioned about you not paying on time,
Yeah.
I think self discipline is important as well, which I need to apply. Me honestly as well, if I'm being honest with myself, I need to apply that same self discipline as well, knowing that if I get a certain amount of money, I need to I need to plan ahead as far as my life. Say, like, I know I want to be in this place, I want to get involved in this type of venture, then I need to make sure I take some of this money, save some here, and then the rest, save, like, spend what I need to spend on necessity, not necessarily what I desire, but more like what's important. So I think also that needs to be stressed as well to the younger generation, because I think you said something before about everyone's trying to live the
Keep up
life,
with the
but they don't
Joneses.
have.
Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, exactly.
No one has money these days, but we like to pretend that people do have money these days. I think I heard a statistic the other day. Um, and I know they say the minimum poverty level is something like £22,000 per year, and if you're making less than that, you're actually um, below the poverty line. And £22,000 per year it's not, when you think about it, it's not that much money. But at the same time, when you're buying things like trainers that are like £100, you're buying bags that are like £500. It might make you look expensive, but within that level of income that you're making, it's a huge percentage of money being spent. You look at people
Mm.
who do have a lot of money. If let's say you take someone who makes 100,000 per year, and they spend £100 on shoes, and you, like, percentage wise, they're spending less than 0.1%,
Listen.
where you're spending around about 1% of your money. And at the end of the day, finances is a numbers game. You keep doing that, eventually you realize, you know what, I can only afford 100 pairs of shoes a year, whereas the other guy could afford 1,000. So we don't understand money to that level sometimes.
Yeah. Absolutely. Fantastic. So thank you so much. Benedict, is there something you wanted to add? I thought you wanted to say something there.
Yeah, so for me, I just wanted to stress that your financial journey and your financial growth is very much a very personal journey. And I think sometimes in African cultures, we have taboo topics that don't even ever need to be taboo, because we're so concerned about things that don't really matter. So growing up in a very Congolese household, money or how money is gained wasn't really something that was openly discussed. It was kind of an adult
Hmm.
type of conversation. And I think one thing you learn as you grow is that old habits really take a long, long time to die down. So
Yeah.
better that you instill these very basic financial values in children, monetary values in children, simple things like the value of things, the worth of things, that can help you have a healthy relationship. What you find is these are small children growing up in African communities and households, and they've never had any money, like substantial value. They go to uni at 18 and student finance gives them 3K. They've grown up in a Congolese household where dad wears designer every single day. What do you think they're going to do? The first thing they're going to do when they get £3,000 in their account is go and buy big clothes and big, because they have an unhealthy relationship with money. Whereas the mindset that teaching them about money will make them greedy or make them strive for money and instead of studying, what you've then instilled is a very, very unhealthy relationship just because of ignorance. They don't know the impact of spending like that. They don't know how hard it is to save or to maintain, because you've really reserved those type of conversations for the adults in the house and the children have no clue. So for me, for my own very personal journey, I lived on my own from when I was 16, and I had a very unhealthy relationship with money where I hadn't been taught how to save. I had no previous indication of like, this is how doing this is gonna impact you in the future. So lack of that basic knowledge led to very bad choices and very bad decisions, which never had to ever have been made if I'd had just had an open communication or just that dialogue about financial security. So I think that's very important. Like, just even from when they're very small, pocket money, talking about management, talking about using money for something bigger than the instant gratification of here and now is really beneficial. And then knowing that as a first generation, maybe their dreams or their goals or their aspirations isn't necessarily to buy a house here. To buy a house in Congo, you just need money. So you can do Likilimba for years and years and years. You have money, you go and you buy a house. But your children and the next generation, they want to buy property here. It's a whole different kettle of fish. The market is different. So doing Likilimba is great, amazing. But when you can't prove to the bank that you can save or that you can keep money in your account, it's all good at coming in and then going out, coming in and going out, and then getting a lump sum. Where did that come from? The market here doesn't work the same as, our parents' generation. So I think that's one other factor to really remember, that although you're teaching them about money in a way that benefits you, living here and trying to have generational wealth in this country it's a whole different kettle of fish. So I think the first thing I wish I had known as a child about money, or as a youth about money, was that it doesn't grow on trees. So I had very poor credit just because I had no credit, if that makes any sense. So when you have no credit, if you've never took out a loan, you've never had a car, you've never took out a phone contract, you have poor credit. But it's simply because the banks don't know whether you can be trusted. They don't know how you manage your finances. So then they give you these little kind of step ups to help you learn to manage your money better. So you get credit cards that aren't massive budgets. You don't have like £2,000 and it's a very small credit card. They call it credit builders. So you'll have a basic one of £200. They're kind of watching how you do. When you've used £200, they give you a little bit more, like cheese, like a mouse running for cheese.
Yeah.
Then when you've done that bit, they give you a little bit more. So naive 18-year-old me who had a bad relationship with money, I get a little credit builder. So I'm going to stunt, I'm going shopping because I got £400 in my little credit card. And then they asked me, would you like some more? And I'm like, yes.
Of
So I
course.
take some more.
Yes.
And I buy shoes and I buy nice wigs and I look cute, Then they ask me, do you want more? Then you get to £1,000. And then when you start paying that back, plus interest, you have no idea what any of these
It's no.
APR 2 means. It means nothing to you because you're going to pay it back, That's a very unhealthy relationship to have with money, because you have to then pay that back. That then impact you, impact your mental state, impact everything, because being in debt is not a good feeling. Now, if I had been smart and somebody had taught me something very, very simple, live within your means, act your paycheck. So you have your little credit card and you want to prove to the bank that you can spend money. Amazing. Spend £20, return the £20. Okay, straight away. If you don't have the £20 to return, don't spend it. It's just as simple as that. A credit card isn't emergency cash. It's not. It's borrowed money. It's, when your mommy gives you money and tells you to hide it in her little bag, that's that money. She's going to come back for it. And she's going to be like, yo, Bakisa, whatever, because you had that for a little bit too long. So once you have that type of mindset and you know that these people are just watching how you manage this finance, if I knew I was being watched, listen, I wouldn't have spent like that. Okay, I didn't know it was going to impact the way it impacts. So I've seen on the comments, because I've got the other video up there, like the video on there, and people are asking things like, how do you dispute? So if you go on your Experian and you can see something that isn't correct, keep going all the way to the bottom. There will be a phone number, there will be an email address. I am forever trying to dispute debt that is really mine. You can just email them, send your proof. No, but you have to. This is the type of conversation. This is the type of dialogue you need. You need the transparency, and that's because this is a very. In my personal financial journey, I don't have it saved. I don't have it. I don't have it all the way there. I save emergency cash, and then I use it for
Yeah.
non-emergency items because you've saved
Yes.
all wrong, all wrong.
Yeah.
If you earn
Mhm.
£1,000 and you know that in a month you spend £800 on bills, if you then think, okay, I'm going to put £200 away, that's not saving because you're going to need that £200 between now and the next paycheck. That is not emergency
Absolutely.
cash. That's just, that's not disposable income. That's one word we need to put out there.
That's your spending
Disposable
money.
income.
That's the spending. Yeah.
So there is an amazing app called Yolt. It is free. It is amazing. It links up
How do you
all of your
spell that?
cards. YOLT.
How do you YOLT? Yolt. So
It
guys,
links
you
up.
have a look at these websites. They sound
Download
great.
Yolt. You can link every single debit card, credit card onto this one app, and it shows you how much you spend. And oh my gosh, it
Mm.
categorizes what you spend on shopping, what you spend on food, what you spend on entertainment, and you will be so surprised at what you're paying for Sky. Like basic things that you don't even think you don't because you
Oh,
don't ever
sorry.
do
Mhm.
Can
it.
I just add? These apps as well,
Yeah.
they do help you with some they'll tell you if you're spending a lot within certain things. Like for example, Benedict said Sky. So with these apps, it'll kind of do like a compare the market type of thing,
And show you
where it will
cheaper.
show you
Oh, okay.
cheaper places where you can. So in regards to that, it will help you with that as well. So
Oh,
it
I
will be
think
able
I
to
need
give
that
you
app.
that.
I will definitely get
You need
that,
so if you have like
especially for that.
so she
Especially for
mentioned
that. Yeah.
Plum. She mentioned Plum
Mm.
before. Plum is great for that. So Plum will like
Yeah.
they'll message you and say you're paying this much for Sky for the same things you could be paying way less, which is brilliant.
Mm.
So Yolt is
Mhm.
amazing because it helps you see how much disposable income you have. If you don't have disposable income, make disposable income. Don't put yourself in a situation where you feel bad for saving and then taking it out. That's not healthy. It just means in that moment you don't
Mm.
have anything to save, and maybe look for extra ways to make cash. Like don't have that level of guilt over it. So
Mm.
as we were growing up, we learned about mortgages and stuff. There was an amazing government scheme called the Help to Buy. It's been scrapped. Help to Buy doesn't exist anymore. But there is another one that
Mhm.
nobody ever talks about called lifetime saving ISA, which is amazing. So there's an app called Moneybox, which is great for you to talk to your children about
Mhm.
because not your children, but
Yeah.
your young adults. So
Anyone, you'd be surprised. Even adults will need
this app
will need this. Yeah.
Moneybox is great for people like me
Mhm.
because if you take the money out of that you have saved, you lose your interest. So guess what? I never take money out of it because I don't want to lose my 25% interest. So the maximum you can save
Mhm.
in a year is £4,000, and then the government will add
Mhm.
you an extra thousand. So you'll save 5,000 in a year. But you can only use it
Mm.
to either buy a house for the first time
Mhm.
or to retire. So think very carefully if you're going to
All
have this as
right.
something on the side because in the future you want to
Mhm.
buy a home. Amazing. If it's not for a home or something else, then there are other apps. This one isn't for you. So the great things about these apps is that they're free, they're
Mhm.
beneficial. Just open the door to have these type of conversations and these levels of transparencies, and you can save future credit. Um, if
Mhm.
your credit, I forgot your name. Sorry, he mentioned the CCJ before
Elizabeth.
on his account.
Yeah.
A CCJ
Oh,
takes
David.
7 years to come
Mhm.
off your account. So even after you pay off your CCJ, it will still be on your credit score for 7 years. 7 years is a long time.
It
From when
is
you
a
first
long
got the
time.
CCJ as a
Very long.
student,
Mhm.
7 years later, you've got your job and you're looking for a house. You don't want that, that kind of thing impacting on that.
Mm.
If he had known about these risks and these consequences, he would have sought legal advice and definitely took himself away from that situation. So have these conversations. Don't feel like there's such a massive stigma, especially in British culture and in Congolese culture, which doesn't help. Nobody asks about money. It's so frugal. It's so bizarre. Like I'll call my sister and be like, "Hey, how much have you saved?" And she's like, "Oh, you can't ask that." And I'm like, "But
Yeah.
why? Like, why not?" I'll be really proud. So she's like, "If you have £500, you say I have £300 when really you have £500." But Your children don't have that mindset. If I have £20, I'm going to say to
Mm.
Jessica, sis, I've got £20. Like, that's all I've got. So better that you
Yeah.
teach them to have these healthy relationships with money and these very
Mm-hmm.
open conversations. It
Yeah.
just, in the long run, it's very beneficial to them because this is their home. This is where they're going to live. This is where they're going to raise their children. They want to buy property. They want to buy cars. They're seeing you drip. You know, they're seeing dad in Louis Vuitton, not understanding that dad doesn't have a desire to buy a property in the UK. He doesn't care about his credit score because that's not his goal. Ultimately, his home is in Congo and that's where he's going to go and rebuild. You, on the other
Mm.
hand, that's not your reality. So you need a good score if you want to buy a house, if you want to have that generational wealth that you can pass on to your children and the other children. If you want to start
Absolutely.
businesses,
Mm-hmm.
you need that good credit score. So take away the
Yeah.
taboo, take away the children shouldn't know about money, or if you know about money, it means you're too fast or you're growing up too. That's all rubbish. It's rubbish. They have They
Yeah.
have bank cards for 8-year-olds. 8-year-old English
They
children
do.
have bank
I
cards to teach
I
them
actually,
to manage money.
yeah. Mm-hmm. I saw an advert and I forgot to get the name of this card. There's this card. I think maybe not for children. Perhaps like, okay, yes, it will be for children, but it's children like in high school or something, where parents
Yes.
obviously can control, and they possibly, if you got like a pocket money that your parents gave you or something, and they put into that card, but it's more kind of to give you know children like an education in mind, like, listen, this is what you get
How
monthly. If you
amazing is
spend it
that?
all,
Like,
you're
if
not
we had
getting,
that,
kind of. mm,
if I had that, I wouldn't have
will
spent the way I spent. But definitely teach your
yeah.
children that having poor credit isn't necessarily an indicator that you're bad at spending money. If you've got no credit, you will just have poor credit. So the best thing to do is when your 16-year-old gets a job and you take a contract phone under your name, teach them to pay it themselves. Just having that level of
Yes.
responsibility, they'll know.
Mm, mhm.
So yeah,
But the
so
thing
I
is,
think
I think now I say a lot with young people. I remember when I was still in college. I was in college, and this was a few years ago. And my brother was already working, and he was working at Apple. And it'll say like these parents come in with these young children, like they're like 10, 12, 13, 14, and they're buying them these very expensive phones and this technology and all this stuff that even he couldn't. And I'm like, my brother was saying he's a full grown man and he's working full time and he can't even afford the phones in there. So I, even if the parent has money, do you think it's healthy to kind of give them this blanket, this idea of, it's okay, I'll pay for you? Or is it better to let them, like, you're not getting this because you can't afford it, and teaching them how
listen,
to deal with money?
while still studying, I have this friend, this white English,
Mm,
this my white friend. She's like in her 40s and she's like a CEO of a company. She has all this money. And one time, like, we took our children out on a play day and she was like, how can you afford for your daughter to look so nice? She's on like 60,000 a year, right? She thinks
yeah.
my
Mm,
daughter looks nice. Listen, our priorities as African people are all the way wrong. I was like, this
yes, there.
lady gets a helicopter to her villa in Scotland and she's telling me she couldn't afford to dress her child the way I
Mm,
dress my
mm-hmm,
child. Because I'm Congolese,
yeah.
okay? So my kids have to look 10-10 all the time.
Yeah.
All the time. So whilst before I wouldn't even go George or Tesco to buy clothes for my kids, that's where the rich people are going.
Mm.
I didn't know.
Yes.
I'm going
You know what?
Zara, I'm
This is
going
what I
Big C.
complain all the time in our community. Why do we like, what is it called? Sapolage? Like, what is it called? There's this grief. I,
Listen,
I
my
can't remember.
children are
There's a
having
word
big,
for
big
it, and it's
gadgets.
ridiculous.
Listen,
Yeah.
Every
my
single
children have big, big
household, if you
gadgets, and this girl
notice,
has
like,
black cards. I don't have that.
hmm exactly, like,
Priorities
if you
wrong.
notice, it's not just, and
That is
you'll be
true.
surprised, it's not just like people, it's not just the Congolese communities. Even in the
It's
English
African
community,
people as
you'll
a
find
whole.
people
It's
who
like we've got
don't
something to
work.
prove.
Yeah,
I think
Like her
I
some
know.
children get like
people
2 Christmas
they
presents. We have like boxes. And this woman owns properties. She has like 6 properties, holiday villas. She's on I couldn't
Mm,
even,
hmm
we're not on levels, like we're not on financial levels. So that really took me back for me to think, wow, if she thinks
Yeah.
I'm spending too much on futilities, then there's a problem there. So
Yeah.
that's when you have these
hmm
conversations. Sometimes you have these people in your life and you're too shy to ask. I wasn't shy. I was like, teach me. Like, what are you doing that I'm clearly doing wrong? And she was like, oh, my family and friends, instead of buying big gifts for my children, they put money in their ISA. Sis, did I know what an ISA was? So there I went and opened an ISA, and I adopted that mentality, and I do the same thing. There's no shame in learning from the person
Mm.
next to you. And I think that's an important lesson. There's no shame. So you see somebody doing it, it's not envy. Somebody can
Mm.
really inspire you and motivate you to be better. And if I see you're
Yeah,
good at managing
absolutely.
money, and it's an area that I struggle in, teach me, like show me. The apps are
We
there.
see it in
It's
the
a
wrong way, you know. I think in our community, in African communities, we see things in the wrong way. We see someone driving a nice car who can actually afford that nice car, wearing
arrogance.
expensive things, and we're like, oh, I want that as well. But you think, but can you actually afford that? And we can't. And the truth of it, you know, we can't. We can't afford it, and we don't even think like, you know what? I can still look as good wearing us George or Primark or
Yeah,
whatever.
so if you see my
There will
kids
be
in
no
George, you mind
problem
your
at all.
business because we're saving money.
Yeah,
It's okay. Like, there's no
exactly.
shame
Yeah.
in that. You know what I mean? There's no shame. But you come to a party and they're like, hey, her kid's wearing like Primark shoes when they've got nothing saved away.
Mm,
There's more to it than that. You're putting our children on an uneven playing field. If my daughter then grows up with
hmm.
this mindset where she can't, oh my God, I
Yeah.
can't shop in George because that's where, like, you know, the peasants shop or whatever. That's
Mm,
that's my tax bracket. That's the shop where I
yeah.
should be spending my money. If it means I can put something away for a better day and my child can grow up having a healthy relationship and a healthy dialogue with money, then yeah, by all means, like, there's no shame in that. So I think it's just
Yeah.
important to have these
Yeah.
conversations and to break
Priority,
these
right?
barriers.
Can I just ask?
Absolutely. Yes.
One thing that I would like to mention that I think I'm sure Benedict will get to as well, but in regards to if we're taking out things like I think this is only going to matter to, you know, a certain, I guess, university onwards, or I'd like it to be just anybody working. We really need to start thinking about life insurances, um life
Yeah.
insurance the same way we go out and take out a phone contract, because I read somewhere on Twitter where it says, how can you have a phone contract but you don't have life insurance? We're not,
Yeah.
our
Hmm.
parents should be, well, we ourselves need to be having life insurance. I think we just think of life insurance for old, for, like, you know, our parents and the older generation. When I
Hmm.
think when I did my life insurance, I think you can get life insurance from 17, and I was so shocked because I was like, from 17, I didn't even fathom to think that. I thought it was, you know, my parents and going upwards, but
Something. Oh,
the
yeah.
younger you
You
have
get.
life
Hmm.
insurance,
The
the
cheaper.
more that you
The
the
cheaper
more that you
is,
can
yeah,
save and the
and the
cheaper
better.
it is. Yeah, so
Hmm.
that's very important as
Yeah.
well. So it's something for ourselves, and also I wouldn't say that much. I would say for our parents as well, just because I'm a bit hesitant with that, just because a lot of our parents, they really just come here for a duration of time, but their mind is really set on going back home. So that's why
Yeah.
I think a lot of the times they do certain things, like, let's say, like Benedict said, you know, they wouldn't mind, you know, messing up their credit here because they're not planning to live here. But us, things
Even
like
if they're
life
living here, their
insurance,
council house is fine. They're not looking for more than that.
yeah.
Like,
But us,
Yeah.
obviously, we're gonna
Mm.
wanting to have, obviously, you know, mortgages and things like that. So life insurance is definitely important. You can go and compare the market. You can give them a call. I would say it is definitely a lengthy call. They do ask you lots of questions, but they'll find the right one for you, and that, like, again, accommodates with your financial bracket. Like, as we keep saying,
Hmm.
obviously, and we keep stressing, everybody has their own financial bracket, and it doesn't mean, like Benedict said, if I'm trying to, you know, hop onto Benedict's bracket or she's trying to hop onto mine, it's not a
That's
jealous
not.
thing. We're trying to help each other, and I think as a community and as friends and family, we need to help each other and not think, no, you have to stay down here and I'm gonna go
oh,
up.
I'm not going to share my secret with her because she's going to save her own
She
money.
she can
No,
go.
that's
Yeah. Yeah.
yes,
That's another thing that we need to break in the community. We're not very supportive about each other at
yeah,
all.
yeah,
In no
yeah,
ways. I don't see. You know, when it comes to people succeeding, no matter what they're doing, we just don't support each other. Like if some, even if the people who actually come out there, you know, they'll come to you and be like, you know what, I like the way you're going. What are you doing? And you'll be like, I'm not telling you.
Yeah, but
There's a lot of that.
I
So,
think people mistake jealousy and what's the word that you
mm,
used? What's the word that you used?
I don't know.
Oh,
I said so much.
no, like jealousy and like obviously just trying to progress in your own level as well. So there's nothing wrong with
mm-hmm,
me saying, for example, like Bennett's top. I'm like, oh, I like your top. Where did you get it from? It's
yeah,
it's a compliment. If, like she said, if I'm coming to you and asking you something, that should be,
mm-hmm,
you should feel like that's a compliment to yourself because you're doing so well that somebody else can see that. So in regards to our finances as well, like if somebody comes and asks you, for example, you're doing well, this and that, don't take it in a way like, oh, why should I help you?
Mm-hmm.
There should be no reason why we can't all win, as they say. Everybody should.
mm-hmm,
And I think with like your financial journey, I think it's something that you need
yeah,
to self-reflect on regularly. Like, don't be so hard on yourself because you could save really, really well, and then life just happens. Your
yeah,
expectations could be great. Life happens. Once it's
mm-hmm,
done, it's done. Then just start again. Like,
yeah, mm,
don't just dwell on it for too long because that just isn't going to do you any good. It's more detrimental more than anything else. That's one thing. Just make sure you're reflecting on that monthly, quarterly, however well you pen and paper, your little spreadsheet. And when you do
mm,
well, reward yourself. It's difficult, especially when you're not used to it, when you've not had these lessons, when no one's taught you, no one's been saving for you, doing it all by
mm,
yourself. It's a really difficult journey to go on. And I think it's very raw. You really have to know yourself and know your bad habits, know what you're doing wrong, and to be that naked to yourself, it takes a
yeah.
minute to
It's the painful,
and
and I think that this is what sometimes causes people mental health. With or unhealthy relationship with their finances, not wanting to look like, okay, this is the reality for me. I cannot afford to spend this kind of money, and I really need to cut down. And it can cause
Yeah.
some sort of disturbance with because you're trying to live a certain life, a certain
yeah.
quality and all.
And I just
But
want to say, like, with the type of year that we've had and the uncertainties that we've had
mm,
with everything, like, don't be so down on yourself if you've not saved as much as you wanted to save. If you've not, like I said,
mm,
life happens, and one of this year has
yeah,
just been one of those years where I have saved, then used, saved, used, and that's just how it is. Like, what can you do about it
yeah,
now at this point? But
mm-hmm,
just as long as you're true to yourself about saving money and just being practical with it,
yeah,
realistic
mm-hmm.
goals. I'm gonna save £5,000 in a month. No, you're not. No, you're not. That's not realistic. You're setting yourself up
Even
to fail.
£100, it can be so hard, to put
Yeah.
that
Start
on the
small
side. Yeah,
and then just kind of add on to it. I think
gradually.
that's it. Really.
Hmm. Boys, would you like to add anything onto this?
Um. One
What's
second.
your take in our whole financial situation?
Me. Um. Well, I can give you some of my top 10 tips that's helped me save quite a lot of money in my day. So one thing we don't realize, well, one thing I didn't realize took a lot of money is whenever you buy something that's already made, such as takeaways, or if you can make it yourself, you're saving a lot of money. Take the example of I don't know why, but when I was in college, I used to buy Starbucks. I think maybe twice a week, and then it was only when I looked at my bank statement at the end of the year, I think it told me I'd spent something like, was it twice a week? I spent something like £500 on Starbucks altogether, and to me,
Mm-hmm.
it didn't occur to me that that's how much I was spending. But then the alternative
Yeah.
was to make coffee at home, and that brought my cost down from 500 a year to about £30 a year. So the more times you can find little loopholes like that, the more money you are saving, because it is a lot of a lot of money is spent unnecessarily. Even for example, let's say you take public transport everywhere, and you can afford to take two stops off. At the end of the year, just getting us two stops earlier and saving that £3 at the end of the year, £3 every week, that's £150. But
Mm,
it's a long game. It's a compounding effect. So I think
Mm.
if people start to think a lot more long term, and I'm not talking 6 months, 8 months, or even a year. I'm talking maybe 5 years time. If you look at
Yeah.
your habits, you multiply it, literally you multiply by the days of the week or the month. So if you spend something once a month, you multiply it by 12. If it's every week you spend, you multiply it by 52. That's the true cost of whatever you're doing. And it could be little
Mm.
things. Multiply it over a 10-year period, you realize all of a sudden I've spent 10K on Coca-Cola. I think
Yeah.
one of my biggest spending was confectionaries, just because I used to have a bit of a sweet tooth back in the day, and I might as well have had a membership to M&M's, So I might as well have had a membership because I was spending.
Pick and
I was
mix.
Right.
so
She must spend about 20
£250.
grand on pick and mix. Crazy.
Pick and mix.
Sorry.
Pick and mix is dangerous. You think you're getting a
Sorry.
bargain, all of a sudden you put on weight.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
don't want to go work no more. You
Mm.
put on weight.
Got you.
Financially you're struggling.
I
But
know.
one sec, can you pass me that book? Moy, pass me that book. Alright, for
Actually
me,
got your financial card.
this book here, it looks like a Monzo card.
Can you make it? Yeah.
Can't see
So
it.
money.
It's just called Money.
So okay. Who is it
So
by?
this book is by a lady called Lauren Watley, and she really breaks down money in a way that anyone can understand. And I'm not saying
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of finance books out there, but I feel like just picking up one and reading it will forever change how you view your finances. And a lot of people have never we never get it in school, we don't get it in college, we get to university, no one tells us about it. It's almost like it's a
We don't
massive
get it from
secret.
home.
We don't get it from home, so we really have to be responsible. We need to
Yeah.
actually stand up. And we don't know anything about, like me. Even now, even though I've read a little bit, I'm not. I would still say I'm not financially literate, which is a term we need to understand. Financial literacy
Yes.
is the reason
Mm-hmm.
why the lady was talking about before. She's saying, how can you afford to make your children look so good? Is because she's financially literate. She understands that percentage-wise, if she spends so much
Mm.
on the type of clothes we're spending it on, she can't afford her mortgage or whatever. So that's how they're thinking. They're literally playing on the margins. There's a very razor thin line between poverty
Mm.
and some wealth. It's just how you spend your money, really. I think
Yeah.
one of the things my pastor told me as well is when I got my first car, he told me if every time you're going out in your car, you're not making any money, eventually you're gonna get into debt. And I didn't understand that.
Yeah.
So this is my first car. I'd go out with my boys all the time, and then it's like £20 petrol. We go out, we buy food or whatever, and then this repeated over and over again. And then eventually, I found myself at one point a month. I found myself I had no money to pay insurance for the car, no money to get more petrol. So I thought, what am I gonna do? So I sold the car at that point.
And yet you're
But
paying the car. Yeah.
I realized, had I a couple months ago realized I only had maybe 5 weeks of driving left, maybe get a delivery job so that every time I do go out, at least I'm bringing back £10 and I'm spending £9. At least I'm making a profit of £2 every time. That kind of thinking is the type of stuff that would have avoided those kinds of situations. So it's just a balancing game
Mm.
when it comes to money.
I'd also
Absolutely.
like I'd also like to add to a point that was raised before about where I forgot what she's called, where she said that she wants to make sure the kids look 10-10.
Mm.
I think it's important as well, like we teach children to have strong self-esteem, to be happy with themselves. They don't have to look at the Instagram model or the rapper or the singer,
The peer
whoever
pressure.
and
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That was
think,
before, by the
what,
way.
because he's
Growing.
got Montclair or she's got this design or whatever, I need to have it
Mm.
immediately. There's nothing wrong with seeing the £10 jacket in Primark and flex and making it look good because you've seen, I'm sure all of you have seen plenty of people, they have the most expensive shoes, the most expensive trainers, but there's no,
mm,
they look awful.
No
Doesn't
problem.
matter how good, it doesn't matter how expensive it is, it doesn't, it just look
Ugly,
terrible.
ugly.
No dressing
Mm.
sense, no class. And that person who went to,
Calm down.
say, Primark or TK Maxx, you know, the £5 jeans, the £5 jumper, the person, he looks like a professional. He looks like a serious person.
mm,
So it's about making sure, like, you're not insecure with who you are. You don't have to
Mm-hmm.
you don't have to chase an image. It's more
Yeah.
you
Yeah,
look at
100%.
yourself, who you are as a person,
Yeah.
and the person you see in the mirror,
mm,
you're happy with that person. So you don't feel the need to, any money you get, you decide, you know what, because this guy looks this way, maybe if I look like him as well, maybe people will look at me
Yeah.
different. No, that's
That
just the
that's the point I was
mentality.
making. Because of the type
yeah,
of household we grew up in, you don't realize that there's a
And I
bigger
think,
picture
mm,
than that.
I
You
was
know,
gonna
you
yeah,
just
say,
think
yeah,
your physical
mm,
is the first thing. Whilst if you had a healthier relationship with money, you'd know all of that stuff, what those actually
mm,
attributes, and you'd be more cautious of how you're spending your money. Because if I knew the impact that that all of that spending would have on my credit or on all the rest of it, there's no way I would spend that much.
mm,
No way. Like for what?
Can I
Especially
just
on
add?
children, don't make sense.
I
yeah,
think one
mm,
tip that we can all have is when we're doing something, which I'm trying to do, there's a difference between need and want. So when we're doing
mm,
something,
yes.
do we need it or do we want it? I think once we, I know,
Most
I know,
times,
it's hard.
yes.
It
Most
is
time
hard.
is
It's
we
very
want.
hard.
It's not that we need it. And it's
Yeah,
very hard. Yes,
it's very
absolutely.
hard. And I think
I won't
once,
show
Mm-hmm.
you Jessica's shoe collection, so we'll just keep that one rolling.
once, I think once we
But maybe
start,
she actually can afford it.
I think once we start like implementing that, I think it will help a long way because
100%.
sometimes we just do things. I think, and sometimes what we need to think, are we doing something that's just gonna help us now or is it gonna help us later? I'm not like, I don't want any of the advice people to take for them. We're not trying to say don't live your life, stay in your house, save. Like,
Mm.
enjoy your life. Like, you only live
This is
once.
what I
Like,
was
enjoy
going to
your life. But also,
touch touch base now, because there's quite a lot of, I think in society there's quite a lot of pressure on young people to, if you're uni, people know you should be traveling, when you're that teenage years, people say, oh, I traveled the world and I did this, or, I go out, go for drinks and meals all the time with my friends and stuff. But in reality, for what I lived, that's you actually can't afford that sort of lifestyle. Maybe I could travel once a year for a nice holiday, but I can't do it 2 or 3 times a year. But it's the kind of lifestyle that society portrays on young people, or pressures young people into believing that at that age, before you get married, from, let's say, 17, whenever you leave school, 18, 17 years old to 25, you should be traveling the world. But in reality, you can't actually afford that lifestyle until you're at least over 25, when you have this good secure job, when you've had your work experience and you have this good secure job that pays you well.
yeah,
So
I think
maybe,
that's where that
you know.
self-esteem comes in. I
Mm,
think when you have that healthy relationship with
mm,
your children, you
mm-hmm,
have that level of transparency, you're not trying to be the
yeah.
next person. You're content in your life and your lifestyle, and you're very happy to just be you. And if you can pull in shift, you can get a job to support that lifestyle that you're wanting to do, then by all means go for it. If you can, because people do
Mm,
that. Some people can really work
yeah,
hard because that's what they want to do.
yeah.
But
Hmm.
if it's detrimental to
In
your
reality,
health, or
most
it's
people
detrimental
can't.
to
Yeah.
yeah.
Hmm.
yeah,
So if you can't, then don't.
yeah,
It's just very simple.
Yeah.
If you can't afford that
Mm.
brand new BMW, don't get it. It's fine. The Golf will do just as well. It's not the end of the world.
Of
But it's
course,
the
it will do
truth.
just as well. Absolutely fine.
Well,
mm.
Yeah.
as
I
well.
think also to look at it from a more positive perspective, the way technology is nowadays, especially also with the social media, I think it's not a bad idea to teach the children from early, You know, say like teach them how to bake cakes, teach them,
Yeah.
say if they know how to make hair really nice, or they know how to sew clothes or something.
Yeah, you can.
It's,
We
you
live in a
know,
time where you can start earning from whatever age you can. Like you can start
Yeah.
earning from 10 years old, realistically.
Mm.
I think I got a question for you guys. What's more important, a good
Yeah,
credit score or a degree?
A good credit score. The
the
one
good
mistake I
credit
think
score.
we made, well, for me anyway, um you kind of get to the stage where it's time to go to uni and you've not really researched how likely you are to get a job after doing this degree or whatever. You literally, you pick a uni, you pick a
Yes.
degree, and you go. And without
Hmm.
thinking of the long
Yeah,
term plans, there's nothing really there. You've not
yeah.
researched jobs, you've not researched how likely you are to get
And
hired, and then you
finding that
find
you might
yourself in
not
a
even
situation
like.
where
Yeah,
Yeah.
you've got
that
this
is true. I've
degree
spoken
because
about
And then
this.
you have
Yeah,
student finance will come for
student
you
it
finance
will come for
is
you.
the
for
word.
a
Yeah.
course that you didn't even like. Don't
So
do it.
think
Mm-hmm.
about the course that you're
Yeah.
doing. Mom, dad,
Mm-hmm.
auntie might be angry, but uni, let me just say this, Congolese
Mm-hmm.
parents, it's not for everyone.
Mm.
It's
I've
not.
mentioned this
It's not.
in my show Chit Chat before because I've spoke about this. The pressures of in our community we believe that uni is the only way of better life and all that.
No,
Whereas
because
if
there's
you
so
live in
many
maybe
successful
makes sense
entrepreneurs out
in Africa but not here.
I
We've got
think
so
back in the
many
day,
opportunities that yeah.
well,
that
from
was like,
personal
if you have
experience,
a degree.
go on. Yeah,
No,
from
sorry, go on.
personal experience, like what I would personally, as far as advice to anyone who's listening, if you're gonna go down that route of saying, or deciding to yourself that uni is not the path you want to go down, the best thing you can do for your parents is definitely find, whether it's an apprenticeship or whether it's some sort of training leading to a field of expertise that you're going to enjoy, but you know that it's going to give you some sort of financial
Yeah, not for your
stability.
parents, for you,
not for
Okay.
for
your
you
parents.
Well, not for
yourself.
your
For
I don't
you,
parents,
live
but
for our
I'm
parents.
saying
We need
the
to live for
problem with
ourselves.
that, if you go telling your
the parents
parents
don't
like,
support.
okay, uni's not for me, they're gonna think in their mind, okay, if uni's not for you, then
I've
what are
wasted
you
failed
gonna
But
do
years.
realistically,
to
Your
no
waste
child,
of
no
one
time.
one
day
wants to be a
look
Mm-hmm.
after
bomb.
yourself?
No one wants to be a bomb. No one wants to live in, at home forever. My
Yeah,
my point was, all our brains are wired so differently, and I think some
yeah,
people are very academically inclined and others aren't. And I think there's
Mm-hmm.
another taboo that we have. We shunt on people with practical skills, people that are more kinetic learners, so people that sew, or people that bake, or people that cook, or people that do makeup, or that do hair.
Yeah.
Although we're praising them now in the community, you come to your parent and say, oh yeah, well, I want to do hair and I don't want to go to uni. Like, that's a massive excuse me. But if you know your mind at 18, if you can decide to go to uni and get into that much debt, it needs to be for something worthwhile, and it needs to be something for something you're really passionate about, because you will pay that money back. That is a lot of debt
Yeah.
that you will pay back, and I don't think our parents even
Mm-hmm.
think about the financial side of things. They think, oh, it's being paid for, so go, just to
I
have a
don't even
degree and a
think
picture on the wall. Like,
I don't even know if African parents know that you actually have to pay your money back.
I don't
I
know.
think they think it's free.
They
It's
probably
not free,
don't.
guys.
Yeah.
We have to pay it
That's
back.
good. That's a good
Not
And when it's
point.
time
Let's
to
ask the
pay,
parents.
yeah,
Yeah.
and can we just say, when it's time, can we just say, when you're picking your university and you're picking these
And your
courses,
course.
obviously your parents are
Mm-hmm.
like, go to uni, and we've discussed, like, it's
Be a
sometimes it's for
doctor.
them just to tell people, my kid does this, but when it's time to pay it back, your parents are not there.
You're paying it
So
back.
make sure
Mm.
you are doing a course that you want to do, because your parents, they're there at the start to just let
Mm-hmm.
everybody know that my kid's a doctor, my kid's a lawyer, my kid's this. When it's time to pay it back, they
Mm-hmm.
know it. They're not there. It's your bill. It's your debt.
Yeah.
So
And
think
in
about
this
it.
Yeah.
country, you could always go to uni. So if you're at all hesitant and you think this is a skill I'm actually great at and I want to pursue that, uni will always be an option. And as so long as you've got your GCSEs and your A levels or your BTEC and whatever it is you need, that is always an option. Ideally, you don't want to go when you're 55. But my point is that this life is so short. Like, follow your passions. If you genuinely, it's not for you, it's a lot of debt. It's a
Mm.
lot of debt that you're going to have
Yeah.
to pay back.
It
So you
is.
really have
Yeah.
to think
Mm-hmm.
about it and do your research around the type of jobs that
Mm.
are available and the fields that are open,
I
And
think from
actually,
what the
over half
one of the
of
boys said,
over half of the people that go to uni, they end up not actually working in the field that they studied for. So you can imagine,
That's
the
It's
pain, and
actually
you think
really
I went through
sad.
that struggle and the stress of studying and late nights and assignments and all that stuff, and then you might not even end up working in the field that you studied for. And a lot of the courses out there, university, you can actually learn on the job, and it's like much
Yeah.
better way than getting into debt.
having a degree
So
and no work experience. It's it's a minefield. That is
yeah,
crazy. Like, don't sleep on
mm,
work experience, voluntary work, placement, trying to get some experience in that field. That's really, it gives you a
yeah,
massive advantage over the person next to you who's got a degree and has no experience. I've just
yeah,
finished my masters, and the area that I'm trying to go into, I don't have that much experience in that field. So although I
right,
graduated with amazing grades, I'm still in a job that I could have been doing
mm,
prior to me having my masters, simply because I lack the experience that's
mhm,
needed. So now you're kind of
yeah.
having to make cutbacks and accept lower wage
Hello?
because you can't, you're not
Yeah.
bringing anything
Okay.
of value
Yes,
to the
I
table.
will. Mm,
I did it.
Yeah,
I'm
my
talking to
my
my.
advice for anyone, I'm talking to my younger self when I was 17. If I could give myself advice for me back then, I would say, really, really take a long, hard think about A, what you're going to be doing, and B, how you're going to be getting your income. Because you know what, there are those jobs that you can do when you're younger, the kind of jobs you can do and you'll get paid for it, that when you're older you might not want to do. So like, say, working at McDonald's or being a cleaner, you can do those jobs easily from when you're 16. You
Mm-hmm.
can save up for two,
mm,
3 years. You save for 2, 3 years, that's 30K. Most people don't have 30K in their account. You gotta understand, that's the power you have
mm,
from age 16. So you can
Yeah.
build up, and
mm,
then the best thing you can ever do is pay for your own university course as well. Because the thing with student finance and all that stuff, like, I've taken out student finance, and they've made so many changes recently that I don't think the generations coming from now are going to be able to pay their course back, not until they're very, very
yeah.
old, like 80,
Mm,
and that's most people. So if you can pay for your own course financially, that's the best thing you could do. But everyone's
yeah.
gonna say, "Oh, you know what? You didn't go to university straight away, or you didn't graduate by the time you're 21." Most people that graduate at 21, they don't know what they're doing afterwards.
Just to add to what he was saying and what I was trying to explain before,
Just sorry,
I'm not
very,
saying
very
that you
quick,
got.
Junior.
Sorry?
We're running out of time, so if you can just give your
Okay, yeah,
point
I'll
very quick, my
summarize it.
apologies. So,
Whatever you choose to do, just make sure you have an option. That's it. If you don't want to go uni, that's fine. But make sure whatever lane you're taking next, you have an option. Because end of the day, yeah, I agree with you that I don't think our parents understand everything that comes with university as far as paying everything back. But at the same time, they
mm,
don't want to see you doing nothing.
Exactly.
Otherwise, they're gonna
Yeah,
feel
yeah,
Yeah,
like
of course.
they came to Congo
that
for no
wasn't an option,
reason.
by the way, kids.
Yeah, so
yeah.
just make sure you always have an option with whatever you choose to do.
Empower yourself,
Yeah,
of
Very
course.
good point. So, thank you so much for our panelists. Unfortunately, we have come to the end of this program. I think there's still quite a lot to talk about. I was going to touch base on investments. We don't really know much about investing our money instead of spending it, that extra £30, £100 and whatnot. You can keep it all together and invest it on something and will bring you grow more money. But unfortunately, we've run out of time for today. Thank you so much for watching and joining us. Thank you for my panelists for joining me tonight. And thank you for Walmart UK for supporting the program, and Venix TV as well. So we will probably have a second part of this. There's a lot, much, much more to talk about in financing. Thank you so much for my guests. Have a good
Thank
evening.
you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Bye.
15 combo. 1 second. No, yeah.